Afternoon, good evening, wherever you're at. Want to get right into the lesson again today. What we're going to be talking about are circle equations. I can guarantee this will be on the air test, okay? And it is not a hard idea. This formula is not on, I don't believe it's on your formula sheet, okay? So you're going to have to memorize this formula, but here, I wrote it right there, must memorize this formula. I guarantee this formula will be on the air test. What's nice is I'm going to teach you a way you can kind of cheat the system here with this with another formula that's on the formula sheet. So let's write this down. We talked back on the very first day of this chapter what the definition of a circle was. I want to review that real quick. So go ahead and write this down. It is the set of all points a given distance from a point. Again, the set of all points a given distance from a point. Okay. So there is a formula that is on your formula sheet. It is the distance formula. And the formula for a circle comes from this equation right here. Now, if I were to write down the distance formula, here's what you have. And I want you to write this down as well. Okay. And I'm going to show you how similar this formula is to your distance formula. So the distance that we're referencing here, folks, when it comes to the circle, is the set of all points a given distance. Remember what that given distance was? It was the radius from a point. Okay. So I'm going to replace the letter D with the radius. Okay. And then I'm going to replace the second x with an h and the second y with a k. Now, here's what I'll tell you, and I'll write this down maybe right here. Your h and your k stand for your center point. Okay. And then your R obviously stands for radius. Okay. Now, how this, if you were to look up the circle equation or formula in any textbook, if you were to Google it, it wouldn't look like the formula that I have on the board here, because they undo this square. Okay, this right here, they undo this. How do you undo a square root, I should say? I said that wrong. How do you undo a square root? You square both sides. So in squaring both sides, here's what the circle equation formula actually looks like. Okay? But I'm telling you right now, if you were to write it like this on the air test, they would accept it. Okay? But I want you to be thinking in this manner right here. That's complete to me. That is the circle formula. Now, what I'd like to do is, if we were in class, I would ask you, hey, give me a center point, an h and a k, and give me a radius length. Okay? And I would show you on Desmos. And so I'm actually going to go to Desmos right now. And let's just make up some things so you can see this play out in a graphable plane here. So if I go to Desmos, I'll go ahead and do this. X minus, and let's say 9 is going to be our x value squared, plus, let's go y minus 4 squared. Okay. And then let's go equals 36. Okay. Now, here's what I want you to understand. I know it says x minus 9 and x or y minus 4, but when I take this out, okay, a couple things I want you to think about. In order for this number to be negative 9, the negative's already here, so what is h? H equals 9. Okay. If this is, the negative's already here and this is negative 4, what is k? K is actually 4. Okay. So I have to tell myself when I'm looking at these equations the opposite of, okay? Because the negative was already present. The negative was already present within the original equation. And then if r squared, folks, is equal to 36, what is the radius length going to be? It's just going to be 6. I'm going to square root both sides here. Okay. Now let's see how this plays out in our graph over here. Okay. If I go ahead and maybe zoom out. Okay. It's kind of hard to tell right now where the center's at, but on your, when you're taking your test, if you graph it, you can usually count the distance here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So half of that would be 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's my center point. Okay, so let's see here. Looks like I'm over here at 9 and I'm up here at 4. 9, 4 with a radius length of 6. Okay, and so if you forget this formula, you can always graph it out in Desmos and kind of do what I did right there. Sometimes they'll make it difficult where it kind of crosses like out in here. And so what you might, I'm not even going to go there. You'll just have to know more about the formula to get those problems right. But sometimes it's nice and neat like this one is, where you can say, hey, I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I've got my radius length. Okay? So that's the basis for what we're going to be looking at today when it comes to the circle equation. So let's take a look at some possible situations we can find ourselves in to be able to answer these type of questions. Okay. So the first one looks like this. LM is the diameter of the circle. Okay. It's just like the one we looked at. Write an equation of the circle in standard form. Okay. Now again, standard form is what we just looked at right here in this form right there. Okay. So again, I'm probably going to count the diameter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have a radius of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I go ahead and find the center point, negative 1, 2, 3, positive 2, negative 3, 2. There's my H. There's my K. And what we say this length was, the radius was 4. Okay. So when I plug it in, here's what I would look to see. X minus H squared, Y minus K squared is equal to a radius squared. Okay. Now, I will want you to clean this equation up. I will want you to go ahead and make things nicer for me. The double negative makes a positive. And if I square 4, I get 16. That's how I'd like you to put your final answer. Okay? All right. Now, I believe the air test is flexible enough. It can look at that and say, yeah, you got that right. Okay? But I don't want to leave it to chance. I want to make sure I finalize this. I get this down. That's my circle formula. Okay? All right. Now, moving on. Write an equation of a circle with the center at 3, negative 5, and passes through 0, 0. Okay. So in order to get this one, there's several ways that you can write this out. You could go ahead and do this. If you use your basic formula, we can go ahead and plug in that this was H, this was K, and this is just a random point, so I'm going to put X and Y. You can plug both of those in to your equation and then solve for the radius length. So I would do something like this. 0 minus negative 3. 0 minus negative 5. Okay. Just plugging those values in and then going in and solving for them. Now, if I do that, double negative makes a positive, so this is actually 3 squared. And this is double negative makes a positive, so positive 5 squared. We have 9 plus 25, which would equal 34. I'm actually going to stop right there. Why do I want to stop right there? Because when I finalize my equation here, guys, if I do this, Remember, the double negative makes a positive, so I'm just going to do x plus 3 squared, and a double negative again makes a positive. Y plus 5 squared is equal to the radius squared. This is my final equation right there. Okay. Now, I'm trying to think down the road how you guys might choose to solve this if you don't remember the full circle formula. And one way would be to actually graph the 2 points. Okay. If I'm at 0, 0 here, okay, and I go -3, so 1, 2, 3, yeah, okay, and then I go +5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can go ahead and graph, change the colors here, you can go ahead and graph those 2 points. Come on. There we go. Board doesn't always work, okay, and you can find this length right here. This would be 3 over to the left, 5 up, and you could do your radius length like that using the Pythagorean theorem, okay. Either way, it will give you the same outcome, okay. 9 plus 25 is 34. We're right back to where we were before, okay. So just some things to think about with respect to the circle formula there. Now, this last one, I'm going to show you 2 different ways you can solve this last one. One way is by completing the square, okay? And this is, let me read the problem to you, and I'm going to take you back to last year. This is something you talked about last year in Algebra 1. You're going to talk about a lot more in Algebra 2. Those of you that are in Algebra 2 this year, you kind of have a leg up on this. So the equation of a circle is blank. Okay, we got that equation. State the coordinates of the center and the measure of the radius, and then graph the equation. Okay. So if I go ahead and kind of group this equation together, here's what I would do to start off with if I'm going to complete the square. Okay, plus 8x, and I'm going to leave a blank here. You'll see why in a second. Then you have y squared minus 14y, and then I'm going to leave a blank. Okay, and I'm actually going to take this 40 to the other side. So there's a negative 40 on that side. I'm subtracting 40 from both sides. Okay. Now, in order to complete the square here, we have to take half of this value right here, take half of this value, and then square it. So if you take half of 8, you get 4. 4 squared is 16. I'm going to put plus 16 right there. Okay. If I take half of negative 14, I get negative 7. And if I square that, I get positive 49. Now remember, whatever you do to one side, you have to do the other side. So if I add 16 here and add 49 there, that's how I can maintain equality, by adding the same amount to both sides. Now again, we have not done a lot of factoring here, folks. There we go. We have not done a lot of factoring here, but this is going to end up being this. The factors of x squared are x. The factors of 16 are 4, 4 and 4, 8 and 2, 16 and 1, okay? But I'm going to tell you, we're going to use since these are both perfect squares, they can both be square rooted, this will be the factor. Now again, if you wanted to double check that, you could do this, just reviewing from last year, okay? Here's your x squared, check. Here's your 4x and 4x, that's 8x, check. And then here's your 16, okay? So we've just basically made this trinomial factorable, okay? If I do the same thing with the second set, okay, the square root of y squared would be y, square root of 49 would be 7, okay? Now here's the deal. If the middle term is negative, it's going to make that negative right there, okay? And again, I can always double check that by doing this right here. Y squared, check. Negative 7y and negative 7y, negative 14y, check. Negative 7 times negative 7 is positive 49, check. Okay. So to finish this off, if I take negative 40 plus 49, that gives you positive 9. plus 16 would be 25. There we go. Okay. Now, to get the center and the radius, I'm going to go ahead and do this. My center, now remember, we have to think the opposite here, should be at -4, +7. Okay, the opposite. And then my radius, remember this is radius squared. Okay, so what's my radius length? It's just 5. Okay, now there is normally an air test question like this. We may even practice one like this here in a couple of days. Let me show you another way you could do this. Okay, if that had your head spinning, you're like, man, that is whoa, I don't remember that from last year. That's fine, but let me share this with you. If I go ahead and type in the original formula, now remember our center and our radius, -4, 7 with a radius of 5. Okay, if I go ahead and type this into my calculator here, my Desmos calculator. Let's go back here. Okay, the original equation was this. We had x squared plus y squared, okay, plus 8x minus 14y is equal, let's go back, space, plus 40 equals 0. Okay, now it gives you this picture right here. And so what I want to tell you about the air test, again, Desmos is kind of a cheat code. If you can lay it out on Desmos, you might be able to. Now again, this is a nice, neat problem, okay? There may be some problems that aren't nice and neat, but if it's nice and neat, you can get this without even doing much math. As far as I can look at a picture, I can find my radius, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hey, that means my radius is 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's my center point. Where are we at here? We're at -4, +7. Okay. So just wanted to show that to you so you can kind of think things out when it comes to the air test. I hope this is helpful. You've got some practice problems. See what you can do with those for Monday. We'll talk to you later. Bye.